Good day everyone! So today we are going to have a short activity titled Analogy with a Twist. But since we are in a synchronous class today, all you need to do is to answer the following analogy on your paper, take a picture of it, and then send it on my messenger. And then I will be giving you until 6 p.m. today, Monday, May 20, 2024 to answer the following analogy. Am I clear with that? Okay, do you have any questions? If there are no more questions, you may start answering now.
Alright, now that we are done with our activity, we are now going to discuss, or our group is now going to discuss what is No Limitang Here in a broader and more specific term. However, what do we know about No Limitang Here? So as we all know, or as we have discussed from our previous discussions with our teacher, No Limitang Here is one of the most prominent novels of Rizal. And why is it important? So it is indirectly contributing to the development of united sense of national identity among Filipinos. So dahil nga ito ay isang nobela na tumatalakay sa kung ano ba yung cancer sa ating lipunan noon during the Spanish colonization, ito ay yung naging daan ng ating pambansang bayani o ni Jose Rizal para magapi at mailigtas tayo sa colonization. So it also explores the social and political issues of 19th century Philippine society while highlighting the oppressive rules of Spanish friars and the need for liberal reformism. Sorry if I am looking here because I have here the slides in front of me. And we are going to have the next slide, which is the table of contents. So the first one is that we are going to tackle the history of publication. The second one is the reason for its publication. Third one is key chapters, or key characters rather. Fourth one is the key chapters. Fifth is overall summary. Sixth, significance of the novel. And seventh, or the last one, is relation in today's society. But for now, let us focus on history of publication. Okay, so history of publication. But before we read all this, I'll just be introducing this one. So since we are talking about history of publication, again, publication, our group aim to publish at least mini booklet, kung tawagin na rin natin, sige pwede, that has the supposed original book cover ng No Limitang Here. And we can also see it on our PowerPoint presentation, but this one that we will be handling, if ever that we will have the face-to-face discussion or face-to-face classes, we'll be giving this to everyone dahil nandito na rin yung ating mga tatalakayan such as the history, the timeline, the key characters, key chapters, and even the overall summary. So once we go back to our physical classroom, we will be giving this physical copy as well. Going back to our history of publication, the first one that we have here is it covers all phases of Philippines life. So again, covers all phases of Philippines life. Bakit kaya? So you're probably wondering, bakit niya na-cover ang all phases of Philippines life? So going back, ano nga po ba ang No Limitang Here? Ito po ay isang refleksyon o ito po ay isang nobela na tumatalakay sa kwento ng buhay ng bawat Pilipino kung paano po ang naging buhay nila during the Spanish colonization. Again, it reflects the struggles and aspirations of the people during the Spanish colonization. At tinatalakay kasi ng No Limitang Here kung paano ang buhay ng Pilipinas bago dumating ang mga Spaniards. Ano ang nangyari pagdating ng mga Spaniards? Ano yung mga naging problema na kinaharap natin habang tumatagal yung pagstay ng mga Spaniards? Ano yung naging proseso kung paano natin nalabanan yung mga Spaniards? And paano natin nakamit yung mismong kasarinlan natin? Paano tayo nagkaroon ng sariling identity, which is why it is called the Philippines or the Philippines life. That is why we are covering all phases of Philippines life. Next one that we have here is the etymology. So first of all, what is etymology? It is the origin of the word. So with that being said, etymology of No Limitang Here, it came from a Latin phrase meaning touch me not. So that is the direct English. However, it is from a biblical phrase which is taken from the Gospel of St. Luke, Gospel of St. John, chapter 20, verses 13 to 17. I'm very sorry if I'm just looking from time to time here because I have here the PowerPoint presentation in front of me. And this one is a biblical reference where Jesus tells Mary Magdalene not to touch him, or Jesus telling Mary Magdalene or Magdalena na huwag siyang hawakan dahil hindi pa siya nakakaangat doon kay Father or kay Ama. To dig deeper, we have the direct quotation here, which is, "Touch me not, I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, them I ascend to my Father and your Father, Father, and to my God and your God." So doon na-inspire din si Rizal para masabi niya na this will be the title of my novel. Not meaning to say na prominent novel agad niya dahil hindi niya naman masyadong ina-expect na talagang magbo-boom siya agad, but he aims to be known. So, kailangan may dating yung gusto kong maging title. And this is why he also had the influence of the Spanish on why it came from a biblical reference, which is this one. Tapos, galing din siya doon sa Spanish words, which is No Limitang Here, or Spanish language rather. And the next one that we have is that No Limitang Here is inspired by Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe. So, bakit kaya na-inspire si Jose Rizal kay Harriet Beecher Stowe, or mas madali kay Stowe, ay dahil nabasa niya yung nobela ni Stowe na ang title ay Uncle Tom's Cabin. Bakit kaya? Dahil po, ang Uncle Tom's Cabin ay isang nobela rin na isinulat ni Stowe, pero ang pinaka-minimin niya dito ay ang slavery na nagaganap sa Amerika naman. So, in some point, meron silang pagkakaparehas. Parehas kasing merong injustice, parehas merong maltreatment, parehas merong kailangang tigilan. So, doon pa lang, nung nabasa ito ni Rizal, sabi niya, this could be my inspiration to write something, but it is about the Philippines and the truth of the Philippines, kung ano ba yung nangyayaring cancer sa sarili kong lipunan. So, from that, na-inspire ang No Limitang Here doon sa isinulat ni Stowe, which is entitled Uncle Tom's Cabin. Okay, so the next one that we have here is, ano ba yung naging proseso na kung paano na-publish yung No Limitang Here. So, we have here the first one, Bleak Winter of 1886. So, again, it is during the winter of 1886 na kung saan ang paligid o ang mga nakapaligid na environment kay Rizal, merong mga hungry, sick, and despondent in a strange city. Sorry, that should be strange. So again, hungry, may mga nagugutom. Sick, meron ng mga nagkakasakit. Despondent, kapag sinabi natin despondent, the vibe is very eerie. The vibe is very gloomy. Or masasabi natin medyo depressive or depressing na yung nakakita. And why is it a strange city? Wala po kasi siya sa Pilipinas nung panahon na isinusulat niya yung No Limitang Here. So, he is not in his own country. He is not on his own area. Kaya sinabi niya na this is a strange city. However, ironically, No Limitang Here was published during this time. At ito na nga, nabasa ni Antonio Regidor ang No Limitang Here, kaya naman naisipan niya na magpadala ng mga kopya sa Barcelona, Madrid, at Hong Kong. As written here, Regidor, very impressed, so he created, again, that is created, very sorry for that one, and sent copies to Barcelona, Madrid, and Hong Kong. Bakit kaya nabasa ito ni Antonio Regidor? The full name is Antonio Maria Regidor y Juan. So, that one ay naging tropa ni Rizal dahil parehas nilang sinusuportahan ang sekularisasyon at maliban pa doon ay parehas din silang nag-aral sa Universidad Central de Madrid. Kabilang sa mga nakabasa nito, sumuporta din ng No Limitang Here ay si Graciano Lopez Haina, Mariano Ponce, and Felix Hidalgo. And the next one, or the last one that we have here, is the printing shop. Again, saang bansa po o saang lugar iprinint ang No Limitang Here? Ito po ay sa Berlin. Pero saan yung mismong eksaktong printing shop? This is the Berliner Buchdruckerei-Aktiengesellschaft. Again, medyo nakakabulo lang, but if you're trying to read it, it's Berliner Buch-Druckray, Action-Gesellschaft. And now we are down to just additional information on No Limitang Here. So, dahil nga medyo mahal yung pagpapaprint, again, magkano ang isang copy? It is 300 pesos. And ang ginawa pa nila ay 2,000 copies. So, 300 pesos for those 2,000 copies. Kaya naman, nung time na nagre-revise siya, so syempre, kapag kasi ikaw ay isang writer, nakita mo na medyo lengthy yung ginawa mo or medyo mahaba yung ginawa mo doon sa iyong nobela at may pwede ka namang i-cut down na chapters without sacrificing the content, ay pwede mo siyang gawin. So, that is called as revision. That is part of doing your novels. That is part of writing your own stories. At ganito rin yung naranasan ni Rizal. That is why meron tayong tinatawag na missing chapters. And for missing chapters, this is chapter 24 entitled In the Woods. So, this is called missing chapter. Bakit? Ganito po kasi ang nangyari. During the time na nagsusulat si Rizal ng kanyang No Limitang Here, meron po siyang isang chapter na ang title ay In the Woods. This is not the actual chapter. I'm just using this one as a visual representation. So, again, going back, itong chapter na In the Woods ay isinulat niya na. Tapos na siya. Pero, nung time na nag-i-inquire na sila sa kung magkano ba yung magagastos para sa kanilang pagpapaprint, mas mahal. So, naisip niya, I would be revising my work without sacrificing the content. Kaya naman, ang ginawa niya, using the blue pen, the blue pencil that he had, crinos out niya yung chapter na yon para hindi na mailimbag or maipublish pa ng printing shop doon sa Berlin. Ang characters na nandun po ay si Elias and Salome. So, si Elias ay isang lalaki na willing palaging i-sacrifice ang sarili niya. So, in this character, he embodies someone who really wants to show patriotism. Pagdating naman kay Salome, si Salome naman po ay isang babae na napakaganda at ang pinapakita niya naman po dito ay ang complexity of the Spanish when it comes to beauty standards and even the social status. So again, bakit po nawawala ang missing chapter? Bakit po nawawala ang In the Woods and why is it considered as missing chapter? It is because for economic purposes or just to cut down the budget for printing. Moving on, we are now going to have an outline of the timeline of No Limitang Here. So we have here 1884 sa Madrid. Makikita naman natin din sa PowerPoint. Mas madali siyang maaalala. So again, 1884 sa Madrid, he finished about one half of the novel o kalahati ng nobela. At nung pinabasa niya ito, inaprubahan ito ng mga sumusunod. Si Paterno o Padre Maximo and Antonio, Graciano Lopez Haina, Evaristo Aguirre, Eduardo Delete, Julio Lorante, Melesio Figueroa, and Valentin Ventura. Again, let's have a recap. 1884 sa Madrid, natapos niya po ang kalahati ng nobela ng No Limitang Here at inaprubahan ng mga tao o ilang mga kaibigan niya doon na pinagbasa niya. And 1885, so para medyo hindi tayo malito sa ating numbers, dates, 1884, 1885, ang tandaan na lamang na natin ay yung dulo. 4, 5. Pagdating sa 4, Madrid. Pagdating sa 5 or 1885, Paris o Paris. Pagdating naman sa Paris, after contemplating his studies in Central University Madrid, he finished one half of the second half. So again, ang nangyari dito, malapit niya na talagang matapos. Malapit na talaga. Bago niya pa maipabasa doon sa nabanggit natin kanina, bago pa mabasa ito nila Antonio Ridor. So ngayon, kung nung 1884 sa Madrid, kalahati pa lang, ngayon natapos niya na yung sumunod na kalahati. Alamin naman natin, ano kaya yung sumunod na nangyari? So now, we have here 1886. So kung kanina, pagdating sa 1884, number 4, Madrid, 1885, number 5, Paris, April to June 1886, Wilhelmsfeld. So, nandito na tayo sa ating number 6. He wrote the last few chapters. So, ngayon po, meron na lang tayong finalization. Next one that we have here is February 1887. Kung kanina, just a recap, 1884, Madrid, 1885, Paris, 1886, Wilhelmsfeld, 1887, Berlin. Ano ang nangyari sa Berlin? He made the final revision. This time, he was very hopeless. So, katulad nga kasi ng napanood natin sa Ilustrado, ito kasing time na ito, nung nasa Berlin siya, nagkakaroon na rin ng problema mismo sa Pilipinas. So, nandoon na yung pinupunterian na sila ng mga ibang Spanish doon. Kaya naman, nahihirapan na siya. Doon na yung nagkakaroon na siya ng sakit and penniless. So, pagdating kasi sa penniless, nawawala na rin siya ng funds. Nawawala na siya ng sapat na pera para pa ipagpatuloy yung kanyang pag-aaral, and moreover, na meron pa siyang isinusulat and potential na gagastusan pa ito. But then, we also arrived at 1887, which is Maximo Viola arrived in Berlin. The next one that we have is, meron tayong exact date, February 21, 1887. Finally, ito na. Ito na talaga siya. Noli Me Tangere was finished and it was ready for printing. So, kailan po mismo natapos ang Noli Me Tangere? February 21, 1887. That would be 2/21, 1887. And, pagdating natin ng exactly a month later is that it is now March 21, 1887. The cost for each copy is 300 pesos. Kung ngayon, pag pinakinggan natin yung 300 pesos, medyo malaki pa rin siya. What more na kung yung dati nga yung piso ay napakalaking bagay na, what more is kung 300 pesos during their time. And not only that he published one copy, but 2,000 copies. Luckily for him, Antonio helped him in that one dahil nga inaprobahan nila o nakita nila itong gandang weapon para maligtas tayo sa mga Spaniards. That is why Jose Rizal gained a lot of help with the friends that he met in Madrid. And lastly, on the timeline that we have here is that it is now March 29, 1887. Rizal gave Viola the galley of proofs of Noli rolled around the pen that he used in writing. So, try nating ikwento. Ngayon, kailangan niyang patunayan na talagang siya yung nagsulat ng Noli Me Tangere. Kaya ang naisip niya, yung pluma, or what do you call this one, the pen that he used in writing the Noli Me Tangere. So if I'm Rizal, I was writing this one. Kung ano yung mismong pen na ginamit ko, lahat ng pruweba na pwede kong ilagay doon ay inilagay ko doon mismo sa pen at inikot ko siya sa pen na yon at ibinigay ko kay Viola. Okay, that is the timeline of Noli Me Tangere.
Good day everyone, this is Abby, your modern Filipina, and for today we're gonna be discussing another edition of our YOY. For today's edition, we will be discussing about the reason for the publication of a very well-known novel of Jose Rizal, which is Noli Me Tangere. So let us dig deeper into the reason for its publication. The first reason is expose and critic. Rizal aimed to expose social injustices happened during his time in the Philippines. He criticized the way things were run, highlighting the societal problems through this novel. This expose also calls for reform, hoping to spark positive changes in the Philippines. Second reason is reflection through fiction. Rizal didn't attack the authorities directly. Instead, he used allegory and symbolism to create a fictional world mirroring the Philippine society. Characters and situations explore the historical events of the Philippines as well as the social problems. Filipinos Forced offering a veiled but powerful commentary. Third reason is testing reformism. Rizal wasn't just critiquing the Philippine society, but more of exploring also the possible solutions. The protagonist, which is Juan Crisostomo Ibarra, embodied his hopes for reform. Through Ibarra's journey, Rizal tested the idea of liberal reformism, aiming for positive change within the existing social structure. Following Ibarra's struggles, He explored the viability of peaceful reform as a path forward. The fourth reason is social cancer diagnosis, which is the novel's title Noli Me Tangere or Touch Me Not in English translation that holds a key and hidden message. It refers to a painful sore, untouchable because of its sensitivity. Rizal compared the Philippine social problems to a malignant cancer. By exposing these issues, he acted like a doctor diagnosing this illness. He believed that acknowledging these problems were very crucial for Filipinos to begin healing and creating a healthier society. So those are the reasons for the publication of Noli Me Tangere. Once again, this is Abigail de Guzman, your modern Filipina, and now you know why.
Alrighty, so in this part of the presentation, we will be tackling the key characters that gave color and also played a significant role in the story or in the storyline of the novel. We will also be able to realize how these characters gave impacts on the story of the novel. Also, to give you a heads up on what's coming before you, so in the presentation later, we will have a monologue first of the character and then the presentation of the character itself. Because you might be confused why we are talking in first point of view. So that is why we are giving you a heads up before we proceed with the presentation.
Mga binibini, let me introduce you myself. I am Crisostomo Ibarra, the lover of Maria Clara, soon to be her husband. I was born in a wealthy family. My father is the late Don Rafael Ibarra. I just returned to the Philippines after the 7 years of studying in Europe. Crisostomo Ibarra is a wealthy mestizo man who has just returned to the Philippines after the 7 years of studying in Europe. He is a sophisticated, highly esteemed, and idealistic man. Actually, Crisostomo Ibarra is viewed by the priest of Santiago as a great wariness, or with a great wariness, because of his highly liberal education and connections. His father, Don Rafael Ibarra, was labeled as absurd and heretic by the corrupt priesthood, which leads to his death. Ibarra's hope is to establish a school in Santiago to carry out his father's dreams and ideals. But he is tangled with a conflict in the church, and he is forced to flee to Santiago because of the scheme of the Father Salvi. In contrast to his more radical friend Elias, Ibarra wants to work within the system to reform the Philippines rather than to throw them. But as the story progresses, he shifts to Elias' beliefs. I am Maria Clara, the half of Crisostomo Ibarra. I was born in a family with high status in the society. Since I was young, I thought my father was Captain Tiago. But in my horror, my biological father was my godfather, Father Damaso. I was the product of his malicious plan to my mother, Pia Alba. Maria Clara is a woman of highly social status. She thought, as she grew up, that Captain Tiago is her real father. But little did she know, her biological father is Father Damaso. She is a product of scandalous plan of Father Damaso to her mother Pia Alba. She grew up alongside with Ibarra, that's why she fell in love with Ibarra and eventually decided to marry him. But Father Damaso disapproved with their union. When Ibarra became excommunicated to the church, her guardians decided to wed her to Leonares, a wealthy young man with a Spanish descent. She just go with the flow and she just say, yes, I will marry Leonares, because she doesn't want to hurt her father. But as she heard the trial of Ibarra for sedition, she coerced into surrendering the letters that Ibarra given to her to be the evidence of his guilt. When she heard Ibarra's apparent death, she decided not to continue the wedding and just enter the convent.
I am Padre Damaso. I am the former friar of San Diego. I am a rapist. I am the real father of Maria Clara, and I am the mortal enemy of Crisostomo Ibarra. Sino nga ba si Padre Damaso? Padre Damaso is the main antagonist in the novel Noli Me Tangere, and he is also the real father of Maria Clara. On the first part of Noli Me Tangere, Maria Clara was introduced as the daughter of Capitan Tiago. However, on the latter part of the Noli Me Tangere, it is revealed that Padre Damaso was the father of Maria Clara. Paano nga ba nangyari na si Padre Damaso ang tunay na ama ni Maria Clara? Si Padre Damaso ay pinagsamantalahan or nirape niya yung mother ni Maria Clara. And in this novel, ang pinapakita ni Padre Damaso, siya ay isa sa mga muka ng mga Espanyol tungo sa kasamaan na dinulot nila sa Pilipinas during the colonization. Also, si Padre Damaso ang former cura paroko ng San Diego. So, meaning to say, siya ang nag-rule over the San Diego. So, lahat ng kahirapan na dinudulot ng mga Filipino dun sa San Diego ay dahil sa kanya. So, later on, as we discuss the other chapters, malalaman natin kung ano yung mga kasamaang ipinakita ni Padre Damaso doon sa storya dito sa storya ng Noli Me Tangere. At kung ano ang naging purpose ang naging role ng buhay ni Padre Damaso kay Crisostomo Ibarra. Ako naman si Elias. I am Crisostomo Ibarra's mysterious friend. I am loyal, brave, and resilient. I pursue justice and equality, and I help Ibarra to get the justice that he deserves. Sino naman si Elias? Si Elias ay misteryosong kaibigan ni Crisostomo Ibarra. Siya ay isang pugante, kung kaya naman minsan siya ay bangkero, minsan siya ay magsasaka. Kung susumahin sa kwento ng Noli Me Tangere, para lang siyang isang normal na Pilipino. Ngunit, ang purpose niya is siya yung nag-i-spy sa mga Espanyol, siya yung mga nag-observe sa kung ano ang tunay na nangyayari dun sa buong San Diego. Bakit pugante si Elias o nagtatago siya sa iba't ibang trabaho or katangian? Sapagkat dahil sa paghahanap niya ng justice para sa pumatay sa mga ninuno niya, gumagawa siya o lumalaban siya gamit ang mga armas. Sinasabi din ng iba na si Elias daw ay representation ni Andres Bonifacio during the colonization. So, para kay Elias, mas gusto niyang lumaban o maghimagsik gamit ang mga sandata, unlike kay Crisostomo Ibarra na nag-iisip muna kung ano yung dapat gawin para sa paghihimagsik or pagkuha ng justice sa pagpatay ng mga Espanyol kay Don Ibarra. So, dahil ang paniniwala ni Elias ay Espanyol ang pumatay sa mga ninuno niya, tinutulungan niya si Crisostomo Ibarra para maghimagsik laban sa mga Espanyol. Ngunit, later on, na-reveal na ang lolo pala ni Crisostomo Ibarra ang naging dahilan kung bakit namatay ang ninuno ni Elias. Pero ganun pa man, tinulungan pa rin siya ni Elias sa mga paghihimagsik niya, sa mga plano niya, laban sa mga Espanyol. At siya din ang nagiging reason behind sa mga success na nangyayari sa mga plano ni Crisostomo Ibarra.
I am a younger, more cunning Spanish priest who has recently assumed control over Father Damaso's post as Friar Curate of San Diego. I am a Spanish priest who has a deep opposition and fierce love rivalry with Ibarra. I frequently fight with the town's ensign for power. Father Salvi was portrayed as representation of patriarchy in the Catholic Church, male-dominated clergy as well as the Spanish friars who oppressed Filipino people. Father Salvi competes with Ibarra for the affections of Maria Clara, causing tension and opposition between them. Salvi sees Ibarra as a romantic rival and tries to sabotage their relationship to win Maria Clara's love. He wants to be seen as important figures in the town. Father Salvi thinks he knows what is best for everyone and wants to be the ones in charge of enforcing rules and regulations. I am Captain Tiago. a rarity as a wealthy Filipino who is native-born. My primary concern is to marry off my daughter, Maria Clara, to an affluent man from an influential family. Captain Tiago's main focus is to find a suitable husband for his daughter, Maria Clara. This is because in their society, it was common for parents, especially those from affluent families, like Captain Tiago's, to arrange marriages for their children. By marrying Maria Clara to a wealthy and influential man from a respected family, Captain Tiago hopes to secure her future and elevate their family's social status. He believes that a good marriage will ensure Maria Clara's happiness, security, and prosperity.
I am the ensign. I am a Spanish descent. I am the head of the Guardia Civil of this town, San Diego. I am the husband of Doña Consolacion, who keeps on getting on my nerves because of her attitude. We argue a lot because of her behavior. And I am in conflict with Padre Salvi, for I think he keeps on doing his job too seriously. He is hungry with power, though he's not even close to mine. So now let me discuss who is the ensign. So the ensign, he is the husband of Doña Consolacion, a Spanish descent. He is the head of the Guardia Civil in the town of San Diego. He is in constant conflict with Padre Salvi. They are after of the power in San Diego. And he also hates Padre Salvi for he thinks he is doing his job too seriously. So he set a curfew to limit people to attend the mass led by Padre Salvi. Injo. You are all Injo, and I hate Injo a lot. I am no other than Doña Consolacion. I am the wife of the head of the Guardia Civil of the town of San Diego. I am the wife of the ensign. I am beautiful and perfect, but I'm sorry to tell you I cannot speak Tagalog, and I didn't bother to do so. So Doña Consolacion, she is the wife of the head of the Guardia Civil, which is the ensign. She is known to be vulgar, brutal, and in denial, for she keeps on denying that she is a Filipino. She keeps on denying that she can speak in Tagalog, and she pretend to be a Spanish. She is also the one who hurt Sisa physically. She made fun of Sisa. She told Sisa to dance and to sing in the crowd.
I am Rafael Ibarra, father of Crisostomo Ibarra. I was assassinated by Father Damaso's paid and bribed worker, and Father Salvi also ordered a worker to throw my body into the river. This caused distress to my young son, Crisostomo.
Next key character is Don Rafael Ibarra, who is Crisostomo Ibarra's father. He was also a critic of the corrupt practices of the Spanish friars. He earns the ire of the vitriolic Father Damaso, who falsely accused him of sedition. He died in the prison before his name can be cleared of these false accusations.
Hello everyone, I am Crispin. I am 7 years old, who is the son of Sisa. My mother Sisa is a sweet and caring mother. I have an optimistic older brother named Basilio. Even though we are poor, we are filled with love from our mother Sisa. I was also a victim. I was a sacristan in San Diego Church. I was unjustly accused of stealing money from the church. After failing to force me to return the money they said I allegedly stole, I was unable to escape from their beating until Father Salvi and the head sacristan killed me.
Crispin, along with his older brother Basilio, worked restlessly under Father Salvi's church as caretaker. This innocent child would forever vanish in the lives of his loved ones, for he will be punished by Father Salvi for stealing or for being accused as a thief.
Good day everyone. I am Basilio. I am Basilio, a 10-year-old son of Sisa and the older brother of Crispin. I am an optimistic and hopeful person. I love my family. All I ever want is to have a simple and happy life with my family. However, at young age, I am aware of my father's abuse to my mother. I was also a sacristan in San Diego Church. I saw how they abused and punished Crispin. I felt bad I was the only one who were able to escape from them. I faced the dread of losing my younger brother and falling off my mother into insanity. I saw my mother, Sisa, in the forest. She was looking for me and Crispin, but when she saw me, she can't recognize me as her son anymore.
Basilio, the oldest son of Sisa, who always protected his younger brother Crispin in the hands of their own father, and as well as Father Salvi. Basilio would also appear in the latter part of the novel and introduce himself to his mother Sisa. However, Sisa lost her sanity and also lost his memory of his two children. So she cannot recognize Basilio anymore.
Buenas noches, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don Tiburcio de Espadanya, a humble doctor from España. My journey here has been one of great personal significance, as I have come to this beautiful land not only to practice my profession, but also to find a place where my talents and my love can flourish. I may be of frail constitution, but my heart is strong and my intentions are sincere. It's an honor to be among you today. Thank you for welcoming me into your community. So Don Tiburcio de Espadanya is a stuttering Spaniard who appears much older than his 35 years of age. Upon his arrival in the Philippines, Don Tiburcio was fired from his position as a customs officer. So despite having no medical background, he traveled to the Philippines to practice medicine since he had a very little money. He nevertheless earned a reputation as one of the nation's top doctors, despite charging excessive fees. So he had to find another way to live as the locals caught on to his scam after a while. But when Maria Clara gets sick, Don Tiburcio pretends to be a doctor once more. So Doña Victorina, his wife, is an aggressive social climber who persuaded him to return to medicine by telling him to only treat very well respected patients. So Capitan Tiago picked him to take care of Maria Clara for this reason.
Buenos dias, amiga. I'm Doña Victorina de los Reyes de Espadanya, the epitome of sophistication and grace in our humble town. My husband, Don Tiburcio de Espadanya, is a highly respected doctor in San Diego. Of course, I'm known for my impeccable taste and connections with the most influential families in Manila. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance.
So Doña Victorina de los Reyes de Espadanya is the wife of Don Tiburcio de Espadanya, and she is a Filipina and not a Spanish. So Rizal emphasizes that Doña Victorina is past her prime, yet she prioritizes her image as a beautiful and admired socialite. She is just in her 30s but appears much older, and she swiftly embraces the current trends, frequently changing her speech patterns to match the sound of wealthy people. It was her idea to have Don Tiburcio treat Maria Clara, and she pushes him to bring along his nephew Linares, whom she is eager to marry with Maria Clara, when Captain Tiago puts off the wedding between his daughter and Ibarra.
I am Lieutenant Guevara at your service. Once again, I am Lieutenant Guevara, one of the Lieutenant of Civil Guards and moral upright men who support Ibarra and Mount Rafaela. I am also one of the supporters and a man who vocal to express my dislike about Father Damaso's control. I am also the one who told Ibarra everything happened to his father and how Father Damaso being involved in his death. Again, I am Lieutenant Guevara at your service.
Lieutenant Guevara, actually in the novel, he can be identified as a supporter of the Ibarra family, more specifically Rafael Ibarra and Crisostomo Ibarra. For this reason, he actually upholds the reputation of Crisostomo Ibarra as well as Rafael Ibarra in the most unexpected way. So, he does this by giving Crisostomo Ibarra the most important information for him to understand what is currently happening in the society.
I am Linares, the nephew of Dr. España. I am respectable young Spanish man. I forged all my credentials just like my uncle, and I'm hoping to have a higher rank in our society.
Linares, this character portrays an immorally upright individual, for he uses manipulation in order for him to rise up to a particular position in the society.
I am Don Filippo Lino, the representative of the younger, less religiously shackled generation of movers and shakers in San Diego. I also serve as the vice mayor of the town. I despise the idea of spending lavish amounts of money on the numerous feast days that mark the religious calendar, seeing it as both wasteful and burdensome to the citizens. The friars have a rivalry with Don Rafael Ibarra because of his intentions to educate the students, especially Filipinos. The friars are now hindering students from learning Spanish, or else they will be equal to the foreigners or even learn about the real treatment of the Spanish government. I am the schoolmaster, teacher that Don Rafael has, thus allowing him to suitably attend to the task of instructing students. I am grateful to Ibarra's family, but I am not hopeful that he'll make headway in getting any lasting educational reforms to happen. People listen to those with more power and more influence. That is why, even though he has a political position, people are not likely to listen to Don Filippo because of his beliefs and principles that do not align with what is considered acceptable.
Buon dios a todos. I am the mayor of the San Diego. I am a conservative mayor who is devoted to religion. Now, in the novel of No Limitang Here, the mayor of San Diego is unnamed. Hindi siya kilala. Parang hindi na ano sa story or sa novel ng hindi nalagay. Parang wala naman tagang na-discuss na pangalan ng mayor doon sa story doon sa San Diego. Ang sabi lang, may mayor, okay? And this mayor, he is a conservative mayor, and we already know what is the meaning of conservative. So kapag sinabi natin conservative, they are the leaders that they are more focused on their own benefits. There are kapag sinabi kasi natin conservative, more on tradition. So, parang ayaw nila ng pagbabago. Doon lang sila sa part na kung ano yung benepisyo na makukuha nila to protect their, for example, protect their private property. So, that is conservative. So, now, let's go back to dun sa mayor ng San Diego. And this mayor allow himself to be manipulated by the church. So, meaning to say, every decisions that he makes for the town of San Diego, he always asks advice for
Parang lagi siya naghihingi ng advice sa mga pari, parang ganun. And because of that, he allows himself to be manipulated by the church. Okay? And we all know that time na yung church or yung mga pari, yung talagang problema natin sa nung time ni Rizal, right? So that is the reason. Okay, so now, he always think that he is a pious man. So parang mataas yung tingin niya sa sarili niya. Okay, and he accused of heresy binds himself of herself, not only held in contempt by the church, but by the government too. So, that is the mayor of San Diego. So, take note, this mayor is unnamed. Wala siyang pangalan, okay? Remember that. Okay, so now, let's move on to the next character of the novel of No Limitang Here. Buen dia a todos. I am the yellow man in the story of the No Limitang Here, written by Dr. Jose Rizal. I am the assassin who tried to kill the young Ibarras in the story, but I failed. Alright, so now let's give more time to know who is the yellow man in the novel of No Limitang Here. Alright, so now in the story of No Limitang Here, the yellow man is not named in the novel. So meaning to say, no one know who is he or what is real name. So why? Okay, so question: why do you think he is named? Why do you think he named in the story as Yellow Man? Why do you think so? Okay. So, he was named the Yellow Man in the story or in the novel of No Limitang Here because his skin tone is always yellow. Okay? So, meaning to say, maybe this Yellow Man, parang may sakit siguro siya. Kasi di ba sa atin, pag nagko-color na yung mga balat natin, may sakit na. Di ba? Ganun yun. Siguro dito sa story ng No Limitang Here, si Yellow Man ay may sakit. Okay? And, so that is the reason why so yun yung reason kung bakit siya pinangalanan na Yellow Man. But listen carefully, take note that wala siyang pangalan like other characters in the story like Ibarra, Maria, di ba may mga pangalan sila, but the Yellow Man is unnamed. Wala siyang pangalan. Dinescribe lang siya as Yellow Man because his skin tone is yellow. Okay, so now you know it. Okay, so again, the Yellow Man is the assassin or the man who hired to kill the young Ibarras in the story of No Limitang Here, but he failed. So instead na mapatay niya si Ibarra dun sa kwento, napatay siya ng iba. Okay, so that is the side of the Yellow Man. So I think kilala nyo na siya. So now let's move on to the next characters in the story of No Limitang Here.
Crispin, Basilio, my children. Crispin, my children. Basilio, Crispin, Basilio, my children. Have you seen my son? Where are my children? Have you seen them?
I am Sisa, a mother of 2 innocent children who vanished in the hands of the cruel Friar. I lost my sanity trying to find my beloved Crispin and Basilio. In No Limitang Here, Sisa is portrayed as a loving mother who lived a simple life in the small town of San Diego. She lost her sanity after finding out that her children went missing in the hands of Father Salvi. With that, she wandered around trying to seek for her vanished children. After failing to find her children, she lost hope that she and her children will meet again.
I am Father Sibila. I am a priest serving in the Binondo district in the city of Manila. I serve as a foil to the otherwise largely corrupt Father Damaso. I am adept and shrewd orator who takes obvious delight in antagonizing the pompous Father Damaso at the Ibarra's return party.
Father Sibylla is described as a liberal priest who is always in the back part of every issue in the story. So he also keeps a good track of the process of antagonizing or Father Damaso antagonizing Crisostomo Ibarra. So he was getting along with the story of how Father Damaso was always against Crisostomo Ibarra.
I am Aunt Isabel. I am the one who took care and acted as Maria Clara's mother when she passed away. I am Capitan Tiago's cousin.
Aunt Isabel is also one of the key characters in the novel Noli Me Tangere because she is the aunt of Maria Clara, and Aunt Isabel always was the one who take good care of Maria Clara at birth, and along the process of Maria Clara growing up, she always makes sure that Maria Clara gets the best out of anything else.
I am Don Anastasio, but I'm also known as Pilosa Pontasio. I studied philosophy as I was misunderstood as crazy by most of the community. I really respect Ibarra and also gave him valuable advice. I also helped Ibarra's father before him. Okay, so Pilosa Pontasio or Don Anastasio argues with the beliefs of the Catholic Church and social changes and concerns in the novel. So he was pessimistic or always thinks negative in the novel. They all think that he is lunatic and crazy. He portrays the epitome of a philosopher where, when we say philosopher, they were the great thinkers or the smart ones, that they were being misunderstood by others or by some people as being crazy.
Our group composed a song that gives you a general view of some of the most popular characters of the novel Noli Me Tangere. Hear this out.
Jose Rizal kanyang pangalan, isang pantayog ng ating bayan. 19 ng Hunyo kanyang kapanganakan, wag na wag mo itong malilimutan. Crisostomo Ibarra Huwaran, isunod-sunuran may paninindigan. Pagmamahal sa bayan, ipagsisigawan, titik at tinig, ginamit na panglaban. Dito mo matatagpuan kalayaan at pinagmulan, bansang pinaglaban at pinasan. Isa sa ating mga bayani, Jose Rizal ang pangalan. Ito naman si Maria Clara, sa gisag ng kahininang kababaihan. Lingas ng pag-ibig, hindi hahayaan. Pagsamo, pagsaklolo, nanawagan. Inang nabis na magmahal, pinakaitan ng karapatan. Sisay pagpatawad, pagkapagal buhay ay hindi na papalitan. Nga tauhan sa libro, simbolismo'y bawat Pilipino. Kasi sa lipunan, layuan mo ako, sakit na tigamutin, wag mo akong salingin.